she cognitively understands what you're supposed to do and what looks correct, but she doesn't emotionally understand. Does she believe the earth is flat? Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and today I thought I would react to Estrange parent tech talk. On this channel, we talk a lot about healing the inner child wound. We talk about signs that you've been through emotional abuse, or we talk a lot about the parent-child relationship, how it affects you. And I thought it would be a good idea to see the other side of seeing parents that have disconnected from their child, like the child has gone no contact with the parent, and how these parents react. And I more so want to take it from an outside perspective and not necessarily condemn them in any type of way, but what I want to show you, there's some videos I want to show that will help you to see how parents that can't change respond to the no contact, and how at the end I'm gonna show there is one parent that really learned and grew from it, and this is how you know they're genuinely sorry. And it's not to say like, oh, you need to reconnect with your parent from seeing the last video, but I wanted to show the disconnect of seeing what a non-remorseful parent looks like, and dive into some of the signs like the manipulation, the victim, them being a victim and all those things, and versus seeing a parent that truly sees their wrongdoings and is taking accountability. So let's get into today's video. So the first one is by a mom I've seen often named Dawn. She calls herself now Fired Mom. So let's see this video.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm an estranged mom, and I just say it like I see it here on TikTok. And I've gained quite a few followers in the last couple of days, and thank you for following along. Estrangement is not something that I'm proud of, and it's not something that mothers enjoy being a part of, but it does help other parents when they find that they are not alone, because being estranged is very isolating and very excluding. It's not including, it's excluding from everything. Family members do not want to be accused of being flying monkeys, because then they're worried they're going to be estranged from the child. So it's just not a good place. I will share that I was estranged.
So right off the bat, I want to point out, I noticed that she's someone that explains her image, and she's someone that's like, she clearly has shame about the experience, but she also wants a lot of validation. So she's saying things that she knows people want to hear, so that way she gets them on their side.
For close to 2 years, a better part of 2 years before I started doing anything on TikTok. And I've had a lot of people asking, well, what is your estrangement story? Because they want to know. However, my children's flying monkey has made it quite clear that I'm doing a smear campaign if I'm sharing my part of the story. That's how they feel. They accused me of doing a smear campaign before I talked to anybody about my estrangement, so I'm not.
So the problem with so much education online with therapy like language is that people use it to manipulate others and manipulate narratives, and that's what she's doing right here, saying that her children have flying monkeys. She's already implying that her children are the problem, and that there's when you say that someone has a flying monkey, they're some type of narcissist, they have some type of narcissism. So she's already off the bat creating this image that the children are the problem, and she's already, you can tell she's not taking accountability.
Not sure even where that came from, because that was long before TikTok. However, as I was thinking of a way that I could share why I'm estranged, I figured I would use my daughter-in-law's own words that she posted on a public platform. And they were talking about me, and so people knew who I was as she shared this, and these were her words.
Her bringing the daughter-in-law into it shows that she thinks outside people ruined her relationships with her children. So she, again, doesn't think she did anything wrong. She thinks other people have manipulated her kids into not wanting a relationship with her.
She said, that's good, he's coming around. This was in...
And it also may show that she is trying to clear her name in some sort of way by bringing up this situation. Because the daughter-in-law did make something public, now she wants to make it public and clear her name. And so that's how she concocted the story of like, oh, this is how I can explain why we're estranged.
Reference to someone else's husband coming around about his mother. I know my husband took a while to understand that she was never going to change. I was patient up to a point, but put my foot down when it started affecting my physical and mental health while pregnant. So, while pregnant, my daughter-in-law became pregnant with my granddaughter a month after I suffered a severe concussion. Severe concussion. I have my concussion story that I shared just recently, and it's also in one of the playlists under concussion. The concussion, one of my treating doctors when I was in a psychosis called it a heck of a TBI. I had had a concussion a year prior, and I have an ultra rare disease that affects acetylcholine in my body. And acetylcholine is one of the chemicals in my brain as well, and in your brain and everyone's brains. So my doctors don't know if that's why my reaction to my concussion and prolonged recovery was a part of it. The reason I bring this up is during my concussion recovery, my behavior was erratic. My behavior was dramatic. My behavior was uncontrollable by me. When you're in a mania, you can't control what you're doing. When you're in a PTSD episode and you've never had one before, you don't know what's going on, that is very difficult. When you almost die, that's very difficult. That's what brought on the PTSD episode. And prior to my concussion, I had been working with my therapist for years, trying to improve my relationship with my children. And he said to me two things. He said, I think that your ex-husband has done a number on your children. And he said to me, I don't think your daughter-in-law is on your side.
So first thing, my heart goes out to her, suffering concussion, dealing with mental health issues. That's always really, really tough. And I'm sure that maybe she did, have some things happen to her that made her act erratic, as in her words. And that's what happens when you have a parent that goes through something, is she's explaining her wrong behavior on something that happened to her when she's not understanding the full picture that her daughter-in-law said, your mom's never going to change. Her daughter-in-law didn't say, your mom's going through something I can't handle. Her daughter-in-law said, your mom's not going to change, which means there's been problems way before the concussion, which this woman is not understanding or comprehending. But she is immediately wanting to get sympathy and get people on her side of like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you went through these things and they didn't treat you well during this experience. And also, she did bring up, I was trying to improve my relationship with my kids beforehand, meaning she did things beforehand that caused the relationships to, the relationships to break, for her to not have any type of connection with her children. Also, something that people who have estranged relationships with their kids, when they go to therapy, they do use therapists to weaponize, or they use the therapist's words to weaponize. They weaponize the therapist's words in their favor. I'm not going to comment on her relationship with her ex-husband, and we can't talk about that. We weren't in the situation. We didn't see it firsthand. I will say there are instances where there's a parent that is not narcissistic, and then they marry a narcissistic partner, and then the narcissistic partner does manipulate the children to then hate the parent. But all in all, usually at some point, if the child doesn't become narcissistic themselves, the children come around and see what's going on. It doesn't seem like that's what's happening in this case. That therapist clearly was tricked by this woman and didn't see all of the, hidden signs that she is doing things to hurt her relationship with her children continuously. Also, I think that's a not healthy thing to tell your patient, that the daughter-in-law is not on her side. That causes more tension, and it continues to keep the patient feeling like a victim. Now, don't get me wrong, you should 100% validate your patients, but when you tell them like people are against you, that can be more damaging, in my opinion.
I think she's a part of it as well. My behavior.
See, she said that I think she's a part of it as well. How is that the case that she's having problems with all of her children, and then someone from the outside comes in and now wants to continue that? Like, how is it now 4 against 1? At some point, when you're stepping in shit, you got to recognize that the smell's under you.
Once I had my brain injury, were horrible, and I wish that they hadn't happened. I really do, and I've apologized. People say, have you apologized? Well, yes, I've apologized. Now, my brain injury took me well over 2 years to get to the point that I was not dealing with symptoms on a daily basis. Well over 2 years. Emotional overload happened incredibly easily, and it was the most difficult time in my life. I feel horrible that my behaviors affected their pregnancy. And again, I've apologized to them a million times. But she said it right there. She put her foot down when she was pregnant, and my behaviors while I was recovering from a brain injury were more than she could handle emotionally or physically. So it's right there. At the point when...
Do you see how she built up? And again, my heart does go out to her that she did suffer, but she is building the story of, I went through this horrible, terrible experience, and I didn't know what my behaviors were. I was erratic, blah, blah, blah. She's building up this whole story. And then she says, my experience was too much for my daughter-in-law, already shaming her. But she's building up saying like, oh, I apologize, I did my part. And apologizing isn't the main thing that's important. It's how do you make amends. That's the priority. And we don't know how she tried to make amends, but clearly she cognitively understands what you're supposed to do and what looks correct, but she doesn't emotionally understand, and she's showing that.
I finally was not having daily symptoms and actually could start to live my life again. I was estranged from 2 of my children. And when my third went no contact, he had said to me beforehand, he had said, that his childhood experience was not the same as his brother's. But they are all...
Her third child that said his experience was not the same as his brother's was because every child deals with a different mom in the household when you have a parent that is abusive or neglectful or narcissistic, what have you. So that third child may have been what's called the lost child, which is more so someone that's in the background and doesn't get necessarily the brunt of the abuse, but sees what their siblings goes through and gets more neglected. And they can be a little bit more confused about how to feel towards their parent. and some children feel more compassionate towards their parent than others, but overall, in the end, that child decided their mother does not have a place in their life. So she's kind of building it up that something happened, someone got in his ear to make him feel that she shouldn't be allowed in his life, when she's not, again, understanding that she has done things that's caused all 3 of her children to see that she is toxic in some sort of way and that she is harming them.
Each other's best friends, all of them. And the things that he said to me when he went no contact, he had never said to me before. Said I was emotionally abusive. I will admit to being emotionally neglectful because I was raising 3 children by myself with no help from anyone.
Here we go, immediately victimizing themselves, making excuses. Somehow, for some reason, she feels more comfortable saying she was emotionally neglectful rather than admitting that she's emotionally abusive. There's some type of comfort of like, oh, you know, it's obvious that I'd be a neglectful because I was a single mom doing it all by myself, but she doesn't understand the things she was doing to harm her children.
From the time they were in lower elementary school, 2 of them weren't even in school. Yeah, I knew that I was letting them down. I've done lots of deep dives into where I could have improved my behavior as a mother. All I ever wanted to be was a mom. And I knew I was falling short. I went to therapy and would cry to my therapist about falling short. And my therapist looked at me and said, you know, you're giving your kids something you never had. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you're giving them a mom. However, as she said in that post, she put her foot down when she was pregnant. And that's why I'm estranged. Hope this helps.
So at the end of the video, her explanation of why she's estranged is that her daughter-in-law put her foot down. And somehow it made all 3 of her children decide that they no longer wanted her in her life. So this just shows, one, this woman cognitively understands what she should say and what she should feel, but she does not emotionally truly feel it, and she doesn't really understand it on an emotional deep level. She victimizes herself, and she knows how to play people to get them on her side. No one, from what I read in the comments, people aren't really on her side, but I'm sure the people in her life, like her friends or, you know, people in her day-to-day, they've seen her story and have felt for her, and that's how she's been so convincing. I would say she's definitely a really good manipulator. She's definitely more covert, I would say, because she knows the words that she needs to say, but her actions, and there's little hidden messages in what she's saying. So it's important to recognize these things so you don't get manipulated by this, because this is the type of mom that you would go back and forth with of being like, oh, she is taking accountability and she is trying to do better, but I still don't feel comfortable, or oh, she's taking digs, or she's still being passive aggressive. This is that type of mom, that really manipulative type mom. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Undecisive if I want to do this or not. I wasn't going to share my story at all, ever. I wasn't going to share the details of why we're estranged. There's 3 estrangements in 5 years, actually. But I recently just found out that my daughter, who's 24, is sharing her child estrangement side on TikTok. And so that kind of gives me the green light that she feels it's okay to share on TikTok what happened. So I may share like an entire email that I had sent to her in 2022. And let me just say that this is
what happens with estranged parents. They either take the victim route where they want people to feel bad for them and see that their child wronged them, or they take the shame route where they want to hide what happened. What this woman is doing is she's victim blaming her daughter and saying like, oh, you opened the doors, now I can defend my character. It's a subconscious guilt, and her ego's coming out of like, oh, I want to make sure to defend myself. She's putting herself out there. The daughter never, well, from my understanding, I don't think the daughter put out a picture, named her mother, none of that. It's more so she had shame, and she probably feared people seeing it that knew her, and so she wanted to immediately defend her name.
Not just a one-sided estrangement. It's kind of both ways. I've not begged her to come back to my life in 2.5 years. I refuse to do that.
As a mom, I can't imagine cutting out my child. I only have one child for now, but I could never imagine cutting out my child. If my child chose to cut me out, I would sit there and be like, wow, I must have done some type of damage and inflicted a lot of pain for my child to not want to talk to me. Because here's the thing, people think that when kids cut their parents off, and when I say kids, it's adults, but like you're still a child of somebody. When they cut their parents off, they think like, oh, look how heartless they are. No, it's a really tough decision. Like, this is something they harp over for years, sometimes months, so many hours of just conflicting of if they should do it, because it's so painful. There is a biological connection to your parents, especially your mother. You know, when she's pregnant with you, the child, like she's nourishing you, and you guys are connected. And so you have this deep need for parents. The world feels unsafe. Even when you have an estranged parent and they pass, it still can feel really painful, because then it's finally like 100% they're gone, and there's a sense where you kind of feel alone, because your parents are supposed to be the one that protects you and is supposed to guide you and lead you. And when they're really like gone, and there's no way you can ever have any type of relationship, it's so painful. So this woman saying, like, you know, it's a two-way, she puts her ego first, and she has a lot of shame, and she can't handle the fact that her daughter is setting a boundary and going no contact. She has to get one up over her daughter, like, I'm gonna get you before you get me kind of thing. She had to make it known, like, I also wasn't like begging for her to come back in my life. So the whole point is, what I'm saying is, this woman's ego comes first.
And there's reasoning behind that. So she's sharing little snippets of an email that I had sent her back in 2022. Obviously, the parts that make her look good, she's not sharing the whole entire email, because that would tell the story of what she did. So I'm not opposed to sharing the whole entire email. I'm not ashamed of the email. I read it to my therapist, had my therapist read it, and I'm not ashamed of it. So I'm not opposed to sharing that if I do tell my story. Right now, I'm just very indecisive whether or not I want to go down that road. You know, I've healed so much, and I'm happy. I don't have my daughter in my life. You know, I'll always be her mom, and I've accepted that I don't have my daughter in my life, and I'm happy, and I don't want to dig up all that crap again.
Someone that constantly talks about how happy they are, they're probably not that happy. It sounds like she's trying to convince us that she's happy. She probably doesn't want to dig it up again, because there's things that she doesn't want revealed, but she is the one that is choosing to talk about it. She didn't have to put it out there at all. Everyone deals with their trauma differently, and there's some people that want to talk about their family history and their trauma as a way to heal, or as a way to teach others. And then there's some people that want to tear someone down and smear their name. And it seems like that's where this woman's coming from. She's like, oh, you know, she didn't share everything. We don't know what's the truth and what's not. And this woman really just shows that she really cares a lot more about her image than she does about her relationship with her daughter, or ever reconnecting and reconciling with her.
So I don't know if I want to, you know, share the details. I mean, as talking about estrangement on TikTok.
Notice she was comfortable saying, I will air the dirty things that my daughter did, but I don't want to share certain details. So
I did a TikTok 2.5 years ago. I privated it because it was just I was at a different place in my life, and I couldn't handle all the chaos that it caused.
Chaos probably meaning she couldn't handle people trying to hold her accountable.
And I haven't really talked about estrangement much because of that. And I feel like I shouldn't have to keep my voice hidden. I shouldn't, as estranged parents, we should be able to speak about it with other estranged parents. It's our life. It's a big part of our life. And I'm allowed to speak about estrangement.
She's saying conflicting things. She says, I don't know if I want to dig that up and speak about what's happened. But also she's like, I should be able to speak to estranged parents. So which is it? It sounds like she only wants to pick specific pieces that benefit her when it comes to being an estranged parent, which probably, and I'm just going to assume, probably she wants the validation. She wants people to connect to her and, sympathize with her, but she doesn't want the accountability aspect.
The video I did last week during the holidays was to let people know that there is life after estrangement, and you don't have to sit and cry every day, and you don't have to wallow in your sadness. That's what my TikTok was about. Well, I guess it hit a nerve, so she shared a story time. I didn't bash my daughter. I don't like the fabrication of her story time. So
I think that's really painful if you were to go through abuse or trauma and you saw your parent saying, oh, there's life after. I think I would feel pain too. So I think that was probably a way for her daughter to release the pain. Could the daughter be hiding some things? Yes. Could the mom be twisting the story and that she's not actually making up things and they have different perceptions? Yes. Those are just the small, minute details. Really, the most important part to see is that the mom has really little self-awareness to how her behavior is affecting her daughter, and that she more so cares about validation than what her daughter is experiencing and what she has done to cause the estrangement. And especially, she said in the beginning of the video, she's had 3 estrangements in 5 years. I don't know if that's with 3 different children or it's with her same daughter.
So that's making me kind of want to share my side of the story, just to help other estranged parents out there. It possibly may. And now that I have the green light because she shared her side, it tells me, it's okay to put it out there. So I don't know if I'm going to or not. I'm undecisive, but if I do, it'll be in the next day or 2. So I'm just going to really think hard about whether I want to go take this road or not. So, but sorry so long. That's the answer. I don't know if I'm going to share or not.
Just because your child is telling their side of the story doesn't mean it's the green light for you to go ahead and share yours. That's a personal decision if you decide that you want to do it. There was another situation that happened on TikTok between a breakdancing dad and a girl that was trying to get into comedy, and who knows what the real truth is, but she was saying that her dad never was around. He was showing pictures and text messages saying that they had a relationship. So there are situations where kids do fabricate the truth, or they come around later and they realize that they had an altered perception and their parents really were there for them. That does happen, but majority of the time when a child is expressing their estrangement story with their parent, it's out of pain or to teach others about estranged relationships with their parents. Also, sorry for the background noise. My toddler woke up from their nap early, so they were playing next to me. All right, let's do the next one.
You literally live selflessly for years on end for people that you created and love more than life itself. And you do so because you want them to be happy, to have everything that they need and could ever dream of. You even leap tall buildings in a single bound to make that happen. And in the end, they come back and tell you that you did it all wrong. That instead of leaping tall buildings in a single bound, you should have swam under them. And had you, they wouldn't now be dealing with all this trauma. And they know you're the source of it because fictitious people around them tell them that you are, and they believe them. And that someday they're going to do better than you. Does that sound familiar?
I hope that doesn't sound familiar because... So this mother asks, where did all your selfishness get you as a good parent to kids who grew up to be ingrates? This immediately shows that she feels like she's a martyr. She sacrificed all of herself. Her kids are disrespectful, which in boomer talk, that's you don't do as I say. I'm having a power dynamic struggle. You're disrespectful because you're not following every word I say and you have an opinion of your own. So she feels that she has done everything for her kids, and because her kids didn't grow up to basically worship the ground she walked on and didn't follow every word she said, that they are now ungrateful children, especially probably because they no longer speak to her because of the fact that it seems like she's the type of mom where it's my way or the highway. Also, she probably has inflicted a lot of trauma and pain on them, especially because of how invalidating she is, saying that people are warping kids' minds to make them believe that they're going through trauma, rather than seeing like, oh, you know, I may have done things to cause pain to my kids. She immediately is the type of mom where it's, I'm all good, you're the problem. This is the mom that guilts and shames and manipulates and makes you feel really bad about yourself, especially when you're not doing what she thinks you should be doing. When you become a parent, you are committing to sacrificing, being selfless, and guiding the next generation to become adults. And it is a lot, but it is a job you choose, and it is not a job you throw in your children's face because they didn't ask to be here and they didn't ask you to do the things that you did. You chose to do those things as a parent. Let's go to the next one.
This year I burned all of my daughter's baby pictures. And I want to encourage other parents of estranged kids to do the same. We don't have to sit and wait for them to come back home. If they want to make decisions and they want to show that they're the big tough people, then I think it's perfectly within our rights to do things like get rid of those little mementos, you know, and I think that people need to empower themselves more in this situation. I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong to cause the estrangement or the blocking, but I'm taking back my power now, and I hope you will too. We are no longer doormats in this situation.
If you notice the common, I'll be right there, I'll get you more snack. If you notice the common denominator between all of these mothers, it's they're the problem, they've hurt me, I haven't done what they claim I'm doing, I'm gonna take my power back. Claiming that something's happening to them and they need to be in control and power. It's all ego-based, very much so. All, I feel out of control and I feel like something's being done to me, so I'm the victim, so I'm gonna do something to make it right, and I'm gonna get them, and I'm going to hurt them more. Like burning your kids' baby pictures, she wanted her kid to know about that, and she wanted to inflict that pain. That's a very childish behavior. When I was 8, I cut my mom out of a picture because she hurt me and I wanted to inflict the same pain. So as you can see, that's a very childish thing to do, and it's a way to try to inflict pain. If it hurts too much to see your child's baby pictures, by all means you can put them away, what have you, but it really, there's no reason to burn your child's baby pictures. Like that is a statement. You're saying, I want to inflict pain and because I don't like what's happening. Okay, let's watch another video by this woman. She has very interesting takes.
Another mama who gets it. People don't understand what trauma is anymore. This idea that you can suffer mental trauma from a parent is, first of all, it's brand new. It hasn't even existed, Puppet, more than a few months.
What? The idea that you can suffer mental trauma is not something that has only existed, sorry, let me backtrack. The idea that you can suffer mental trauma from a parent is not something that is something that's come up in the last few months. It's something that has been studied for years and years and years. Is it a fairly new concept, like psychology and child psychology? I would say within the last 100 or so years. It's not that new of a concept. Freud is someone that's fairly talked about. That's very interesting that she thinks is something that it shows the delusion. And again, another thing that you can see between all of these moms is there's a condescending, like haughty tone when they talk.
But, you know, I think we need to really examine what trauma is. Trauma is a physical ailment. So when my children come to me and they say that I've left trauma with them from the way I treated them, from burning the baby pictures, because they estranged themselves from me, that is not my fault, that is their fault, that they no longer have their baby pictures.
Wow. It's not my fault I punch you in the face. It's your fault for getting in the way of my fist. That's basically what she is saying. But let's talk about this woman's definition of trauma. She says trauma can only happen from a physical ailment, which means she thinks it can only happen from some type of physical illness. Which, yes, that is a type of way that you get trauma, but that's not the only way that trauma is formed. Trauma is individual based. Trauma happens in the brain based on your experiences and how your brain perceives the experience. So with that definition, your parents can 100% cause trauma. They're probably the biggest reasons why someone would have trauma is because your parents are the ones who are supposed to guide you and protect you in life. And when they are not your protectors, you feel unsafe. So they create a matter of feeling unsafe, and you go through your whole life feeling unsafe and having to learn how to create your own safety. But I digress. The trauma of a parent is so damaging that so many people have to go through therapies, hypnotherapies, somatic therapies, having to learn relations. You go through so much based on the trauma from your upbringing and your parents. So I think it's pretty clear why this woman is estranged from her children.
I think a few more people need to be listening to people like this and not these, you know, these psychologists or whatever they're calling themselves these days. And
Does she believe the earth is flat?
really wake up and really realize that this mental trauma thing is just not real. So stay strong to my fellow mamas out there, and have a great day.
So this comment says, if you weren't killed, severely abused, or beaten, you need to forgive your parent. They did their best, they weren't perfect. My heart hurts for this commenter. My heart really goes out to this commenter because they clearly were manipulated into feeling like they had to forgive their parents for the harm that they caused them, and they were told these things like, at least you're fed, at least you have a roof over your head, at least you are not beaten. They probably have dealt with a lot of emotional abuse to have to say something like that, and unfortunately it feeds these unhealthy mothers. So those are some things we can learn from estranged mothers that care more about their image, care about getting validation, care about more so, you know, playing the victim, gaining sympathy, and have not really reflected and truly understand why their children have you know, gone no contact with them. Now the last video we're going to be seeing is a mother that you could see has genuinely done the work and has truly seen where she's went wrong and what she's doing now about the situation.
Things I've learned since 2 of my adult children have gone no contact with me. Number 1, intergenerational trauma is real, and as a result of my unhealed wounds, I was emotionally unavailable to my sons. They made the right decision for them, and I'm proud of them.
That is so healing to hear. I'm sure it's very healing for children that have gone no contact to hear someone else's mother say that they're proud of their kids for going no contact and doing what they felt was best for them. And she is correct. Intergenerational trauma is very real. It passes down. When you don't heal it, it continues to pass down.
The best way I can love them is to honor and respect their no contact wishes.
That is a beautiful statement. The best way she can love them is to honor their no contact wishes.
I could either blame them or I could work on me. I chose to work on me. Just because I tried my best doesn't mean I didn't mess up being a parent, and admitting that doesn't make me a bad person.
That is really important here. She's taking accountability and owning what she did, which is not shaming herself. She's saying, you know what, I messed up. And there's nothing wrong with me admitting that I messed up. It's important, part of my healing.
My son's going no contact with me has been one of the most difficult things that's ever happened to me in my life, but it's also been a blessing. Please hear me out here. It has given me the time and the space to be able to look at my own unhealed trauma and figure out where my own toxicity is and how I can improve myself, how I can heal myself and become a better version of myself. There's always something to learn. No matter what we go through in life, there's always something.
So you can see here, she is not trying to get back at them, hurt them back. She truly is saying, yes, it's horrible what I have been through. Like, I am hurting, but it also helped me to see where I need to heal and areas that I need to grow. And I have become a better person because of it. And I'm sure she does hope that one day her children will reach out. But for now, she really is taking accountability, not letting her ego take reins of the situation, trying to get back at them or trying to one-up them. She really is saying, like, this is what I've learned. And you could see she genuinely feels the weight of what she has done, and she really wants to do better. And you could see the huge difference between her and how the other mothers are. She didn't even explain what happened. She's not explaining her side. She's taking this as a learning experience. I have to go play with my toddler. What do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below, and let me know if you want me to continue doing these type of reaction videos. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye, guys. Okay, I'm gonna open. Give me 1 second. I'll be right there. Patience. Can you practice patience, please? Patience means waiting your turn. Don't quote me on it. I haven't looked it up recently. Time always passes by and I'm like, oh my god, it's been 20 years since the Spice Girls. Like, you know, okay. But you get me. Oh no. I'm almost done. Thank you for your patience. I'm almost done. Almost done.